the Epic 1000 Steamboat Springs plane crash. Now, that airplane, the Epic 1000, it is a new state-of-the-art airplane. These single-engine turboprops, like the Epic, the Meridian, the Pilatus, they're called the King Air Killers because they're cheaper, less maintenance, easier to fly than the King Air. King Air's got 2 engines. It can take a lot more weight. It can take a lot more fuel. It can go farther. But the maintenance is really high. When you start dealing with the Meridian, the Epic, the Pilatus, they don't go quite as fast, but the cost to maintain them is a lot cheaper. A lot of people are going to these airplanes. Now, the airplane in question, that was a new airplane. I think it was a 2024. It's got the Garmin 1000. It holds 6 people. It'll go 330 knots. It'll climb 4,000 foot a minute. The range is not that long. It's a 1,200 mile range, but the money you're saving, it's worth it. It looks impressive. I've seen it on the ramp. It looks pretty cool. I've seen it sitting on the ramp at numerous airports. It's a nice looking airplane. The automation in that airplane is state of the art. The G1000 next generation with everything on it, it's a great airplane with great automation. Now, the day of the crash, you have got to know before you take off where you're going, what the approach looks like. There's only 3 approaches in the Steamboat Springs. Now, if you can see this right here, if you can read what that says, runway 32 straight in minimums, not authorized at night. Circling runway 32, not authorized at night. Can you see that? You got to know that before you even take off. You got to know that. You're flying. I don't know if it's the first time they've been in there. They might have been in there 100 times. I don't know. But you got to know. You got to look at that approach plate before you ever even take off. Not authorized at night. You can't legally do that approach at night. Now, the controller, when you tell the controller, we want the, the RNAV, GPS, Echo, he's not going to say, that's not authorized at night. Can your airplane do it? Are you certified? He's not going to ask you that. That's not his job. They asked for that approach, and that's what they got on it. It says not authorized at night. So, you got to know beforehand that you can't shoot that approach. The runway end identifier lights were out. Half of the runway lights were out. You got to read the NOTAMs, and you got to know the problems with that airport. A lot of pilots, they never read the NOTAMs. They just don't read them. You got to read them. Half of the lights were out on the runway. The runway end identifier lights were out on the runway. And I believe the PAPI lights are out. Now what the PAPI lights are, there's 4 lights on the side of the runway. If they're all red, you're too low. If they're all white, you're too high. White on white, you're out of sight. Red on red, you're dead. You want to have 2 whites, 2 red. Red on white, you're on sight. So if you got 2 red and 2 whites, you're on a 3-degree glide path, which is basically what you want. That airport, because the shorter runway in the mountains, it's a 3.77 degree angle. So you're kind of coming down like this instead of coming down like this. Most PAPIs and ILSs and GPSs approach, they're on a 3-degree angle. But because of that mountain ridge, you have to go over the ridge and then you got to get down. The plane's capable of doing that. You can put the speed brakes out, put the nose over, and then, the plane will do that. But you got to understand that before you're going. You got to understand it's night, there's mountains. The approach is not authorized at night. You cannot legally do that approach at night. So the better thing to do, there was another airport a few miles away. They could have gone there. Or you could have waited till the morning and gone in there in the day when you could see. There were scattered clouds, so they were probably IMC the whole time. Now, what happened was, and this is even crazier. Let me bring this up on my iPad. What happened was, with the Garmin system, you can pick a visual approach on your Garmin, and it'll bring it in there. This is not a FAA approach that you're going to see on your approach plates. Whenever you're getting ready to land on your Garmin, this is basically what it's going to look like. Now, you can look over here and see this right here. Visual. You can hit that, and your Garmin will pick up a visual descent and go straight to whatever runway you have in there. You can just hit approach, hit that, and it'll do it. But now when you hit that, this is also what comes up. Can you read that? Visual approach only. Guidance is advisory and may not provide adequate clearance from terrain or obstacles. It's a 3.0 load. That's what they did. They hit that. It tells you right there, it's not going to give you clearance over mountains and towers. That works good if you're on flat level terrain everywhere. But in a mountainous area, you can't do that. Now, if you do it in the daylight and it's clear clouds, you're going to be able to see, because you're going to be able to see the runway. All of a sudden, you're not going to be able to see the runway. That means there's a mountain in front of you. That airplane is very sophisticated. If you get within 1,000 foot of the ground, the screen turns yellow. That means caution, caution, terrain, terrain. When you get within 500 foot of terrain, it turns red. And it's saying, terrain, terrain, pull up, terrain, terrain, pull up, pull up. You cannot not pay attention to that. When you hear that, you don't look around, you automatically autopilot off full power and you climb. You don't just ignore it. A lot of these planes that have that, people get complacent and they ignore that because it's going to always go off when you're getting close to the ground, because you're getting close to the ground. And they get to the point where they just ignore that. On an approach at night, unfamiliar airport, clouds and some IMC, the runway identifier light's not working, half of the runway light's not working, you can't see the PAPI. If you could see that PAPI from way out there, red on white, red on white, red on red, white on white, that's going to help you. But if all of that's not working, that's too many things against you. The weather, you know, there's always ice up there. The weather, the ice, the license not working. The approach is not authorized at night. You can't legally shoot that approach at night. So if you're in the middle of Arkansas and it's flat land, now northern Arkansas is not flat, but if you're in the middle or southern Arkansas, it's flat land, and you hit that advisory approach, it'll bring you down to the runway. But you can't do it in mountainous areas. It'll fly you into the mountains. With all the alerts and alarms going off, you just can't do that. So that's basically what happened. It's called the Garmin Vertical Flight Guidance. But it comes up on the screen like I showed you. It's not guarantee you ground clearance from the mountains or towers or anything. That airplane, it's a $4.5 million airplane. That is a great airplane. It has every bell and whistle you can get on an airplane. It's a safe airplane. It's a fast airplane. It's an economical airplane. But you gotta know how to fly it And you got to know how to do that avionics and autopilot. The autopilot is your best friend. The autopilot is your worst friend. You got to know how to work that autopilot. If you don't set it up right, it'll fly you into anything if you set it up wrong. And when you got all those alarms going off, terrain, pull up, and your whole screen goes red, and it's showing a red chevron saying pull up, you got to pay attention to that. So that's what happened on that crash. It is just senseless. It's unbelievable. It's heartbreaking. But you've got to know your limitations as a pilot. You got to know your airplane limitations. That airplane is capable of that approach all day long. It has known icing on that airplane. The props have de-icing boots. There's boots on the wing. You can fly that plane in ice. I wouldn't do it. It's not recommended. Most of the time, your ice protection is made to go through it. It's not made to just fly in ice all day long. It's made to go through it and get on top of the ice where you don't have the ice. So the problem was not with the airplane. I don't know the credentials of the pilots. I don't know what their training was, how many hours they had in the plane. If you're rich and you buy that plane and you got 1,500 hours in a private commercial, you can buy it and fly it. Your insurance is going to be outrageous, but if you're worth a lot of money, they just pay it and fly it. And relying on the automation to get you through. Basically, a plane like that, you're going to take off at 1,000 foot, you're going to hit autopilot. And you're just managing a computer. You're not hand flying that thing 2 or 3 hours. You're just managing the computer. So when you get up and you put that autopilot on, that plane will climb 4,000 foot a minute. I believe it'll go to 34,000 foot, 330 knots. Excuse me. So you're just managing the computer. They took off out of Kansas City. They flew to Steamboat Springs. They're not hand flying that plane. They're sitting here like this, looking at the computer, putting stuff in the computer. The computer's flying that plane. They got over there to Steamboat Springs. They probably knew the approach was not authorized. They said, okay, we'll just hit our Garmin vertical guidance approach, hit that, and flew them into the mountain. As soon as you hit that approach, it says, does not guarantee terrain awareness. So that's what happened. You gotta understand your avionics. You gotta read the NOTAMs. You gotta understand the limitations of your autopilot. And you gotta listen to your airplane. When your screen goes red, it's gonna go yellow. Then it's gonna go red. When it goes red, it's gonna say, terrain, pull up. You can't say, oh, well, my Garmin knows what it's doing. You've got to listen, full power, autopilot off, and pull up, and get back up, and pay attention to what your avionics is telling you. So that's what happened. The lesson learned, read your NOTAMs. Read your approach plate. If it says not authorized at night, that means you can't fly it at night legally. But then to rely on your avionics, if the mountain wasn't there, you could have got away with that. But you can't just keep, oh, it's just easier to hit this than fly the approach. That approach has step downs where you see on that altitude, if there's a line under it, you have to be above that altitude. If there's a line above it and a line under it, you have to be at that altitude. So the mistake he made is he let that visual approach fly him where he should have put the altitude in there and flew that out altitude. It has a VNAV. Well, what is VNAV? Well, I don't want to get technical. Vertical descent, you can be at 10,000 foot and you can say, I want to be at that 9,100 foot threshold, and the plane will fly you to that. Then you can hit the vertical. But you can't hit the vertical out here when there's a mountain here and it's coming. They just barely clipped the top of that mountain. They almost made it. but they should have flew to the 9,100 foot step down. Then they could have hit the vertical. Is that legal and smart? Well, yeah. Is it smart? No. But that's what they did. You gotta know the limitations. You gotta read the approach plate. You gotta listen to your terrain avoidance. And you gotta read those NOTAMs. You gotta know that half of the runway lights aren't working. The runway end identifier lights are not working. That right there tells you, okay, we're gonna wait and do this in the day. Go to the hotel, spend the night, do it in the daytime. Even in the day, if the weather's bad and you can't see, you almost have to wait till the weather's good. An unfamiliar airport with mountain, terrain, obstacles, 3.7 degree glide slope, new airplane, you know how to work the automation 80%, but the 20% will kill you if you don't use that automation correctly. When you got 5, 6, 7, 8 things against you, you can make that down to 2 things against you, waiting for the weather to be good and waiting for daylight. And looking at your NOTAMs, knowing how to work your aircraft. So that's what happened. You gotta know your airplane. You gotta know your limitations. You gotta know the limitations of your autopilot, and you gotta listen to your systems. 50, 100 more foot, they would have been okay. That's what happened. Epic 1000, Steamboat Springs.